Why can't you be more like your sister? Look at how well your cousin is doing. They are your age and already so much better. 5 words, that is all it took to rewire how a child sees themselves forever. There is a certain kind of person who walks into every room already measuring, not because they want to compete, but because somewhere in their nervous system they learned that love is a leaderboard, and falling behind means losing everything. Psychologists call this comparison-based identity formation, and here is what most people miss. These children did not just learn how to perform, they learned how to exist. Decades later, they are still running a race with no finish line. In the next few minutes, I will show you exactly how this pattern embeds itself into your nervous system, why rest feels dangerous, why success never feels like arriving, and how to finally step off the invisible scoreboard that has been running your life. Picture a child tugging at their mother's sleeve, holding up a drawing they spent hours creating. The mother glances at it for half a second, then says, "Your brother drew something like that last week, but his was more detailed." The child puts the drawing down. They do not cry, they do not argue, they just learn. They learn that effort is not enough. They learn that creation must be compared. They learn that even their best might still be someone else's ordinary. Now fast forward 20 years, that child is sitting in a meeting at work, and someone compliments their presentation. Instead of feeling proud, their first thought is, but was it better than the last one? Instead of receiving the praise, they scan the room to see if anyone else got more recognition. This is not insecurity, this is programming. The nervous system learned early that value is relative, never absolute. As adulthood begins, the child who was always compared does not leave that experience behind. They carry it into every room they enter, into friendships, into romantic relationships, into the quiet moments when no one else is watching. In friendships, there is often an unspoken pressure to stay useful. They listen deeply, they show up consistently, they give more than they ask. But beneath that generosity lives a familiar fear. If I stop adding value, will I still belong here? They become the reliable one, the strong one, the one who never seems to need much. And people admire this, but admiration is not the same as being known. You can be admired from a distance and still feel completely invisible. In romantic relationships, comparison shows up in ways that are even more subtle. They struggle to believe they are chosen for who they are, rather than what they provide. Love feels conditional even when it is not. They read between lines that do not exist. They measure themselves against past partners, imagined rivals, idealized versions that exist only in their own fears. This creates a constant background tension, not because the partner is untrustworthy, but because the nervous system learned long ago that connection can be taken away the moment someone better appears. So the heart stays alert, the body never fully relaxes. Intimacy becomes something to earn rather than something to receive. What makes this painful is that they often cannot explain it. They know logically that they are loved. They know their friends care about them. But emotionally, there is always a quiet voice asking whether this will last, whether they have done enough, whether the next conversation will reveal that they have somehow fallen behind. At work, the pattern becomes even more visible. They may overwork not out of passion, but out of fear. Fear of being average, fear of being outpaced, fear of becoming invisible in a room full of people who seem to be climbing faster. Achievements bring momentary relief but never satisfaction. And this distinction matters more than most people realize. Relief is not fulfillment. Relief is the absence of threat. When you work from fear, every success becomes a temporary pause in anxiety rather than a genuine celebration. The mind does not say well done. The mind immediately asks what is next. Who else is gaining on you? What more could you have done? Rest feels unsafe because comparison never rests. Somewhere out there, someone else is working, someone else is posting their wins, someone else is one step ahead. And if you stop, even for a moment, you imagine the gap widening. This creates a specific kind of exhaustion that most people cannot name. Not physical exhaustion, existential exhaustion. The feeling of constantly running without knowing where the finish line is. Or worse, knowing that every time you get close, the finish line moves again. And here is the paradox. People who grew up compared are often remarkably capable. They are insightful, emotionally intelligent, adaptable. They developed real skills through years of trying to measure up. But these strengths were forged under pressure, which means they come with a cost. They may struggle with decisions because choosing feels dangerous. What if it is the wrong choice? What if someone else chooses better? What if this decision makes me look less capable? So they delay, they overthink, they seek reassurance before taking any action. They learn that outcomes determine worth. So every decision, no matter how small, feels like a test they cannot afford to fail. There is also a complicated relationship with failure. Some become terrified of it. Others almost expect it. They may sabotage opportunities right before success. Not consciously but emotionally, success creates exposure. And exposure feels dangerous to someone who is constantly evaluated. Failing early feels safer than being judged later. So they pull back at the moment things begin to go well. Then they blame themselves for not following through. But this is not self-destruction. It is self-protection that never got updated for adult life. Now let me explain what is actually happening beneath the surface. Because this is not about character flaws. This is about how the nervous system learns to survive. When a child is repeatedly compared, their brain encodes a specific survival rule. Safety comes from outperforming. Approval is conditional. Affection must be earned. Rest is dangerous. These are not conscious beliefs. They become background operating rules. And background rules are the hardest to change because they run automatically, without permission, without awareness. Research in developmental psychology shows that children internalize how their caregivers evaluate them. These evaluations become part of their inner voice. So when comparison is frequent, the child does not just hear it from outside. They absorb it. That voice moves inside. It becomes their own. Even when no one is watching, the comparison continues. They sit in a room alone and still feel evaluated. They achieve something meaningful and immediately ask, was that better than what they did? They fail at something small and feel not just disappointment, but shame. Because failure stops meaning I made a mistake. It starts meaning I fell behind. One of the most misunderstood effects of constant comparison is perfectionism. Most people assume perfectionism comes from high standards or ambition. In reality, it often comes from fear. The fear of being measured and found lacking. The child learns that mistakes are not neutral. Mistakes are evidence that someone else is winning. Evidence that love might move toward them instead. So they try to eliminate all mistakes, not because they love excellence, but because they fear being replaced. And yet, no matter how much they improve, the finish line keeps moving. There is always someone smarter, someone faster, someone calmer, someone more accomplished. So the child grows into an adult who does not know how to arrive anywhere. They achieve something meaningful and feel almost nothing, because relief is temporary and comparison is permanent. Another pattern that develops is emotional shrinking. Some children who are constantly compared do not try to win. They withdraw, they decide, often without knowing it, that competing is too costly, that trying invites scrutiny, that standing out increases the chance of being judged. So they become agreeable, low maintenance, easy to overlook. They do not ask for much. They do not expect much. From the outside, they may seem calm and easygoing. Inside, they feel invisible. Psychologists sometimes call this learned minimization. The child learns that being less noticeable reduces emotional risk. If I do not try, I cannot lose. If I do not shine, I cannot be compared. But this protection has a cost. Later in life, when opportunity appears, their body hesitates. not because they lack ability, but because being seen feels unsafe. There is also the child who becomes hyper-aware. They learn to read the room before anyone speaks. They notice micro-expressions, tone shifts, pauses in conversation. They track how praise is distributed, who gets celebrated, who gets corrected. This child grows into an adult with intense emotional intelligence. But it is not peaceful intelligence, it is survival intelligence. They are always scanning, always adjusting, always calibrating themselves to remain acceptable. They can sense disappointment before it is spoken, and because of that, they carry responsibility that was never theirs. They try to manage other people's reactions. They anticipate needs before anyone asks. They preempt criticism by criticizing themselves first. Over time, they lose touch with what they actually want, because they were trained to prioritize whatever would keep them in good standing. But here is what nobody tells you, and I need you to hear this clearly. That hyper-awareness you developed is not a flaw. That ability to read rooms, to sense shifts in energy, to notice what others miss, that is not weakness, that is misplaced intelligence. You learned to survive in an environment where love felt competitive, where approval could be withdrawn at any moment, and surviving that took real skill. The sensitivity that exhausts you is the same sensitivity that makes you deeply empathetic. The pattern recognition that keeps you anxious is the same ability that makes you exceptional at understanding people. The vigilance that wears you down is the same awareness that allows you to connect with others in ways most people never will. The goal of healing is not to eliminate these abilities, it is to redirect them, from scanning for threats to noticing your own needs, from managing other people's emotions to honoring your own, from performing for approval to simply existing as yourself. If any of this resonates with you, I want you to pause for a moment. Think about the last time you walked into a room and immediately started measuring. Who is more successful? Who is more confident? Who seems to have it more together? That reflex is not a character flaw. It is a learned pattern, and patterns can be unlearned. I would like to hear from you. In the comments, share one word that describes how comparison made you feel as a child. Just one word. Let us see how many of us have been carrying the same invisible weight. One of the most painful consequences of growing up compared is what happens to self-worth. It becomes externalized. It lives in grades, feedback, performance reviews, social media metrics. The person may say they believe in themselves, but emotionally, they do not trust that belief unless someone else confirms it. Silence feels like rejection. Neutral feedback feels negative. Praise feels temporary, because comparison taught them that value can be withdrawn at any moment. This is why rest feels so difficult. Rest feels undeserved. If they are not improving, they feel anxious. If they are not producing, they feel behind. The body does not recognize stillness as safety. It recognizes movement as protection. Stopping feels like falling. There is grief that emerges during healing. Grief for the version of you that never got to just be. The child who had to grow up measuring instead of exploring. The child who learned to earn love instead of simply receiving it. This grief may come in waves. It may feel heavier than you expected. But it is not a sign of weakness. It is part of integration. You are not falling apart. You are becoming whole. It is important to acknowledge something clearly. Most caregivers who compare their children do not intend harm. Often they are repeating patterns they experienced. Or they believe competition builds strength, or they are responding to their own unprocessed fears. But impact matters more than intent, and the impact of comparison is fragmentation. The child learns to split themselves. There is the version that is acceptable and the version that stays hidden. Over time, this creates a quiet internal war. They never feel fully themselves anywhere. They adapt to every environment, which looks like flexibility until they realize they no longer know who they are when no one is watching. So how does healing actually begin? It does not start with confidence. It starts with curiosity. Curiosity about your own internal experience. What do I actually enjoy when no one is grading me? What feels meaningful even without applause? What values remain steady when there is no audience? These questions feel uncomfortable at first. For someone raised on comparison, silence is unfamiliar. There is no scoreboard, no immediate feedback, just presence. But presence is where identity actually lives. The next step is learning to catch the old measuring reflex in action. That moment when you enter a room and immediately scan for who is ahead of you. That reflex is not a flaw you need to hate. It is a learned pattern you can observe without obeying. You can notice the comparison arising and gently say, "This is an old habit, not current reality." Then return your attention to yourself. Comparison narrows focus. Awareness expands it. The body plays a role in healing too. Comparison does not just live in thoughts, it lives in tension. The shoulders that stay raised, the jaw that stays tight, the breath that stays shallow. These are physical signatures of vigilance. Learning to relax is not laziness or giving up. It is teaching your nervous system that safety does not require constant achievement. This is why calm feels uncomfortable at first. Calm is unfamiliar. Chaos feels normal. But calm is where repair happens. Another crucial piece is redefining what success actually means. Not superiority over others, alignment with yourself. Success becomes work that feels meaningful even when no one notices. Relationships that feel mutual instead of performative. Rest without guilt. This redefinition takes time because it contradicts years of conditioning. But it is necessary. As long as success means being better than others, you will never arrive. There will always be someone ahead. The race has no end. One of the most powerful shifts happens when the inner question changes. It stops being, "Am I better than them?" It becomes, "Am I being honest with myself?" Honesty builds self-trust, and self-trust is the antidote to comparison. When you trust your own experience, you need less external validation. You respond instead of react. You choose based on values rather than fear. Relationships begin to shift as well. You allow yourself to be seen without performing. You ask for help without feeling lesser. You set boundaries without over-explaining your worth. This feels uncomfortable at first because you are stepping out of a role you have played for decades, but over time, it feels like relief, because you are no longer acting. You are finally participating. Self-compassion is essential here. Many people who grew up compared speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they love. That harsh inner voice was not chosen. It was inherited. Learning to soften it is not self-indulgence. It is correction. You can challenge that voice not with forced positivity, but with simple reality. You can say, "I am allowed to exist without being exceptional." That sentence may feel radical, but it is true. Human worth is not earned through performance. It is inherent. The final shift happens when you realize something quietly powerful. Comparison stole time. Time you could have spent exploring without measuring, resting without guilt, connecting without performing. Healing is not about becoming someone entirely new. It is about reclaiming that time internally. Letting yourself move at your own pace, letting your life unfold without constant comparison to lives that are not yours. The child who was always compared grew up learning how to survive evaluation. The adult they become can learn how to live without it, not perfectly, not all at once, but gradually, gently, with growing awareness. And one day, without noticing exactly when it happened, the question changes. It is no longer, "Am I enough compared to them?" It becomes, "Am I being true to myself today?" That question has no enemy, only direction. Before you go, I want to ask you something. What is one thing you wish someone had told you about comparison when you were young? Something that might have changed how you saw yourself? Share it in the comments, because the words you write might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. The moment you stop comparing yourself, something unexpected happens. You begin to feel your own weight again. Not heavy, real, solid, present. And that is where everything begins to change. That is where you finally start coming home to yourself.